Hey everyone, in this episode of the podcast, I want to talk to you about a brand new book I just finished reading called Deep Work. It's by Newport, and this is an excellent book all about helping you get important work done, and it has really adjusted the way that I approach my work on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis. And I first heard about this book through Michael Hyatt. He recently released a course called Free to Focus, where he talked a lot about Cal and did a productivity summit where he actually interviewed him. And as soon as I found out that Michael was learning from Cal, I wanted to go out and grab this book. I've loved some of Cal's past books as well, specifically So Good They Can't Ignore You. Check that one out if you haven't read that yet. But in Deep Work, this is all about shifting your focus out of the tasks that you do. Of the work that you're trying to accomplish, from shallow work, from just trying to take care of all these little activities, to from just being busy to actually deep, meaningful work. The type of work that requires concentration, that requires focus, is actually going to get things done and make a bigger impact than just a lot of the shallow work like answering emails or things like that. So what is deep work? Deep work is really that distraction-free concentration that pushes your mental ability, your cognitive ability to that next level, that allows you to really create meaningful work, to create meaningful, high-value work, to improve skills, or just otherwise create something that is very difficult to replicate. It's not something that you can just pass off to someone else to take care of, but it's actually more important than that. It takes more thinking ability than that. I love how he opens up the book talking about Carl Jung. As I studied psychology. I've always been kind of a psych nerd. So I love the way he opened the book up, talking about how Carl Jung was able to get more done, to really push some of his theories forward by isolating himself and having this deep work space, this space where he could go. He built this tower where he could just go and really work on meaningful things, to really concentrate and get certain things done. Cal also sets up the value of deep work in kind of a perspective of the new economy, and basically how right now in the world we're living in and going into, there are two abilities that are more important than anything else. That's really the ability to master difficult things. And the second is to produce at elite level in terms of quality and speed. And working on this concentration, working on this ability to do that deep work is something that's going to help you achieve both of those. Too often we kind of get stuck in this mindset of busyness as a way to be more productive. But that's not necessarily true. I know I've definitely been there where my day is packed, I'm full, running like crazy, working 10 hours a day and doing all kinds of tasks, but really not producing anything. I maybe just be running through emails or checking things off a list. But in terms of lasting impact, there's very little that's produced. In terms of things that are going to outlast, even this week, the week that those tasks are done, there was very little I was really producing like that. So really, that was really kind of a game changer for me, is that focus from going on just checking things off and being more productive to a focus on creating stuff that leaves an impact and leaves a legacy. Stuff that's going to live beyond just the here and now, beyond this week, beyond this month, beyond this year. Live like Carl Jung's theories, they're still around. And they're going to be around for a long time, most likely, because they were deep, meaningful work. So how can you actually go about doing some of this deep work? There actually are 4 different philosophies when it comes to deep work and different ways to kind of approach it. One of those is the mosaic philosophy, and that's basically where you go and you isolate yourself. It's going out into the cabin in the woods and writing for a month. It's where you get these long extended chunks of time where you can just focus on that one task or that one meaningful activity. It's Carl Jung going up into his tower and spending days there. That's kind of that's an example of that mosaic type of deep work. Another philosophy is the bimodal philosophy, and that is really where For the most part, you are going about doing your normal day-to-day activities, and then every so often, maybe once a month, maybe once a week, you take a day and just dive on in and you do deep work just for that day. That's an example of the bimodal, because for the most part, you're still running your life just like normal, doing all those little tasks, all those shallow tasks, because let's be real, there's no way you can actually eliminate all of the shallow tasks from your life. There are always going to be some, especially in the world we now live in, there are always going to be some of those tasks that just need to be done that might not be that meaningful deep work, but just need to be accomplished in order to allow you to do that deep work, in order to get things prepped and just to exist in society. You have to go get your oil changed, or you have to pay the bills, you have to respond to emails, respond to calls, things like that. So it's important that you still have time to do those shallow work, but really what you're trying to do with the bimodal philosophy is to, for the most part, work like normal, but carve out small little sections of time where you can really focus in. Now, the third type is what's called the rhythmic philosophy. And this is actually the one that I connect with the most, and it's basically carving out a time each day, a time, every day, most likely the same time each day. That's actually what I do now, is I carve out a chunk of time, 90 minutes every morning, and just focus in on at least getting my deep work sessions in during that 90 minutes. Ideally, I would like that time to be a little longer, but I'm able to do this every day during the week, which is allowing me to get a decent amount of deep work done and then still have the rest of my day, the rest of my week to really focus in on the rest of the activities that need to be accomplished. The last philosophy is the journalistic approach. That's actually the one Cal talks about the most, which is basically what he does is schedules his week in advance, and finds little chunks of time at varying different ways where he can put in that deep work hours. For me, that's way too confusing. I need that routine. I need that consistency, especially right now as someone who is just kind of diving into deep work, because one of the things you're going to find is we've been so conditioned in society that it is difficult for us to actually concentrate. We have a hard time concentrating, just being bored, just being focused. That's why concentration is really a skill, a muscle that needs to be trained, that needs to be worked, that needs to be exercised. So right now, I don't have the ability where I can just flip it on at any point in time, at any, in 5 minutes in some random free spot of time like they kind of recommend for the journalistic philosophy. So I need to have that scheduled. I need a little routine kind of leading up to this. I need to make sure everything is shut off around me. There's no distractions. I have this routine that's like, starts getting me prepared. Okay, now this is going to be the time we concentrate. And then I have an endpoint. I know the endpoint is coming. I know there's going to be a little ding because my little alarm is going to go off. And then I'm like, okay, I can close out this deep work session and move on to the rest of my day. And that really kind of covers the idea section of the book. That's actually part 1 of the book. And part 2 goes over Cal's 4 rules. And this is really his rules for helping build that concentration muscle, helping allow you to do deep, concentrated, meaningful work. We don't have time to run over all of the rules. I want you to definitely go get the book, so I'm not going to dive into all the rules. But there are a couple that I really just wanted to focus on because I think they're while they may sound simplistic, they're extremely important to actually doing that important work, that work that's going to outlast you. And the first one really is to embrace boredom. Embrace boredom, and that's really about not constantly seeking some stimulant. We get so, especially with social media and news and just everything, we're always on our phones. We're always trying to find some way to fill the time, some way to, find some entertainment of some sort. But where you get more thinking done, where you really work your ability is by having that breathing space in there, in your day, having that time where your mind can actually shut down a little bit. So that's a huge rule that I'm working hard on. I'm not very good at it. One of the examples, one way that I'm starting to really work on this is to actually shut down, quit social media, from 8 p.m. on to the rest of the night. So basically it's about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours before I go to bed, and just that's extra time to kind of breathe. It's getting away from the screens. It might be a chance to really talk to my girlfriend, might be a chance to do some light reading or something like that, but just that opportunity to have that space. I also went through and actually deleted Facebook from my phone. I'm still on Facebook, I still check it a bunch, but I didn't want it on my phone where I can, check it while waiting in line. I want that time, I want to work on cultivating that time to have just that space, to just let my mind wander, to think about anything and everything, because I truly believe that by doing that, by giving your mind that breathing room, you're going to be able to concentrate more when you need it. When you're in your deep work sessions, you're going to be able to really put your mind to the test. Your muscles aren't constantly, your mind's not constantly being worked, so it's going to have more energy reserved, ready to go when you want to dive into that deep work session. So that is just a really quick overview of deep work. I highly recommend you go check it out. There'll be a link to it in the show notes, or just simply go to yourpodcastguru.com/deepwork and check out that and get a copy of this book. I don't think you're going to regret it. I'm actually handing it out, passing it out to other people now to kind of get them reading it. If you do any sort of work that involves information, that involves concentration in some way, shape, or form, this book is something you need to at least read and really consider, because I do think it's going to impact the way you go about your day, because deep work is going to become more and more important in our society, and I want you to have that leg up. So go check out this book, and until next week, it's time for you to go out there, take action, and maximize both your impact and your income.